Good evening, all our friends on Facebook, YouTube, and out there in greater Webland, and our live audience here in the studio. Let's have a big welcome for Dallyn Vail Bayles tonight. Dallyn, thank you for being with us. The voice.
Sure, you can call me that.
Dallyn, it's great to have you. I mean, didn't we record together once? Didn't we do something?
Yes, we've done a few things together. Recently, well, I helped out, I think, with the little hands. Recorded
Two Little Hands.
Yeah, I recorded a lullaby, I think, and then there was something at the state capitol that we did, Fuego.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, Hymn to America.
Hymn to America.
We also produce signing time here for those of you that have ever heard of that. Signing time, that's what Two Little Hands thing is
that's right.
about.
Yeah.
Well, Dallyn has quite a background. Now tell us about some of your professional accomplishments. I know you toured the Broadway shows.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I grew up in Green River, Utah, a small town, but I really wanted to become a singer-actor, and so I started by going to BYU in their music dance theater program, and from there I was cast into my first touring company of Les Miserables, and that was very special. And we were able to tour to China and Korea and throughout the United States.
Was that the premiere of? Oh no, you were in the premiere of.
China.
In China.
Yeah, in China. So this was the debut of a Broadway musical in China. Wow. And of all the musicals, it was Les Miserables. And if you think about, the history and with the Tiananmen Square and those kind of things, it was really breathtaking.
Did they have subtitles in Chinese?
Yes. Super titles that they put up above. And it was quite a remarkable experience. And when that red flag comes out and starts waving, you hear this audible gasp in the audience.
Really?
And it was a very special experience. And I was grateful because I had the opportunity to work with Combe Wilkinson, the original Valjean, and some stars from the London stage in New York. And we kind of put this amazing cast together for this debut. And it was really special. And
how long did you tour?
I toured with Phantom for about a year and a half. And then I left to finish my degree at BYU, and then got involved with a lot of work for the LDS Church, film and stage, and then we moved out to New York, and I was cast on the Broadway touring company of Phantom of the Opera, and I toured with them for about 2 years. And then after that, went to graduate school, and then found my way back here. So.
Well, how would you like to hear Dallyn sing something from Les Mis?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, absolutely. Love that.
I'll be your orchestra. We can't afford an orchestra here, so that will be me.
It's all right. You're quite a good one. This song, Bring Him Home. This is Bring Him Home from Les Miserables. It's one that I have sung probably more than any other song, and for good reason. I've sung it in many different situations, funerals, military events, spiritual events, and then just Broadway. But it's amazing how universal this song is and how it speaks to so many people in so many different ways. And so I love singing it and never get tired of it. He's like the sun I might have known if God had granted me a son. The summers die one by one, how soon they fly on, and I am old and will be gone. Bring him peace, bring him joy. He is young, he is only a boy. You can take, you can give, let him be. Let him live. If I die, let me die. Let him live. Bring him home. Bring him home. Bring
Bravo! Bravo! Wow!
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Lovely.
My pleasure.
It's always good to find a good pianist that can follow you and have the same feeling as you as you're singing something, and that was just wonderful. So
Well, you know,
thank
my
you.
mother was a singer.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Alice King of the King family. I don't know if anybody remembers the King family. Alice King, the King sisters. And my mother she lived to sing. And she wanted to marry an accompanist. But she didn't. And so she decided to raise one.
Well, they did a good job.
So from the time I was 5, I was trained to accompany a singer. And she didn't care whether I went to school, got grades. She didn't care about, as long as I played the right chords. That's all that mattered.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, that was thrilling.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Dallyn, when did you know that you wanted, first of all, that you had musical talent? And when did you discover that? And then when did you know that you wanted to do this professionally?
That's a good question. As I had mentioned, I grew up in Green River, Utah, which is a very small town, about 800 people.
Good watermelons.
Good watermelons,
Yeah.
But, you know, the arts are kind of short supply. Not a whole lot of theater going on there. But I had an amazing music and drama teacher, and her name was Jessica Jenkins. And she instilled a love in me for the arts. She introduced me to Les Mis, to Phantom, to ballet, to the opera, and I just fell in love with it. And then the thing that was the clincher, though, was when I was in 9th grade, she took a group of us to Salt Lake City to see the National Touring Company of Les Miserables. And this was the first time I'd seen a professional theater production, and I just sat in that theater, and I just was overwhelmed by what I was seeing. And it wasn't just the story that was filling my heart. I started to think about, I want to do that. I want to do what they're doing. I want to be able to be on the stage to move people emotionally, to share stories that inspire people and bless people's lives. I want to be able to do that myself. And so from that point forward, I took advantage of any opportunity I had in my small town to compete in music and drama. And and other such things, and just tried to develop the talents which I had. When I got to BYU, that's when I started to really develop my, get some good training vocally and other things, which I didn't really have while I was growing up in Green River. And so I just fell in love with the arts that way. And then when I got into the music dance theater program is when I started to start auditioning and doing those kind of things, and then was fortunate enough to get on the radar of Les Mis, and so I auditioned for them a few times, and then eventually the time was right, and I got cast.
So you wanted to do it professionally.
I did.
And
yeah.
we both know how many, let's just say, Latter-day Saints want to sing or act or dance professionally.
Oh, yeah.
Because we get letters with emails every day.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between wanting to be able to do it and being enjoying it as a hobby.
Right.
And being able to do it professionally. Did you have the confidence that you could do it professionally?
I did, and I think that might have been because of the circumstances which I grew up in. I was pretty naive. I had no idea, but I had confidence that I could do it. But more than that, it wasn't just that I just never thought that I couldn't. I just knew that if I had put forth enough work, if I worked hard enough on my talents, if I stayed focused enough, I believed that I could make it work. And looking back, I'm like, well, I don't know if I would have told myself, you might want to rethink your life or not. But I just had that drive. I had that goal. I had that love for the arts, and I knew their power, and I wanted to be part of that. And so I just took advantage of any opportunity, and I just and saw where my path led.
Mm-hmm. Your naivete was probably helpful.
Honestly,
because
it probably
was.
was.
Because if you'd known how difficult it is, it's like being a starting center in the NBA.
Yeah.
To be
exactly.
a Broadway show.
Yeah, exactly. And here I am, this little kid from Podunk, Utah, who's had no training, growing up as a teenager. And really, I mean, I had my wonderful music and drama teacher, but and there's only so far I could develop, even under her tutelage. And so, yeah, I don't know. But again, it was just I desired to do it. And so I would sing with my favorite musical theater stars. I would listen to the recordings over it. It's not the best way to learn how to sing, believe me. I'm not advocating it, but that's how I learned. I listened to Michael Crawford. I listened to Colm Wilkinson, and some of these great people from these, Anthony Warlow, who was a vocal hero of mine, these great singers, and I wanted to sing like them. And so I would work and work and work and work until and just do the best I could and take advantage of competitions and other things. And I kept getting motivated to keep going. People would say, hey, you sound good, you got a good voice, and hey, you did well on that stage production. And so I just kept going.
Do you feel you had to sacrifice things in your youth and in your teenage years to do this? Did you give up? What did you give up?
That's an interesting question.
Or maybe you didn't feel you were giving anything else up.
I did.
Did you like
this is
sports?
What I wanted to do. I did, and growing up in small town Utah, I was able to take advantage of that. So I was able to be on the basketball team and the baseball team and other things just because of lack of numbers mostly. But and I really enjoyed it, and I felt that was a really great way to kind of help me stay well-rounded. But overall, no, I never really felt like I had to sacrifice much of anything because a lot of opportunity was available to me to do other things and take advantage of them and still do my art and still do the thing that I really love to do. So I felt very blessed. Growing up there, thinking back, I think it's easy to kind of, when you're in the circumstance, thinking, oh, I'm so limited right now, this is being in this small town, because I had big city dreams, and I wanted to perform, I wanted to audition for other things, and I was unable to do that. But it was a really great experience, and I think it was very important to me for my development and in who I am, being there among that wonderful group of people with my teacher and things that I probably wouldn't have been able to learn or experience in any other way. So.
Were your parents supportive of this?
They
because
were.
A lot of people say, I would love to be in show business or the entertainment business in some way, but I have serious moral misgivings.
Oh, yeah.
About what my life would be like. And I think that is present in many Latter-day Saints who have desires to be in various aspects of the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
So how did your parents respond to this? And did you have any concerns about that? Were you born LDS?
I was, yeah.
So
yeah, I was born LDS and always been active in the church. And let me just go back and say that I wholeheartedly agree that people really need to be very cautious going into it, because it is spiritually perilous. There's no question. It's very spiritually perilous, and it will wear on you. For me personally, I knew it would be, and I thought about that. My parents knew it would be, and they kind of warned me about that, but they were always supportive, and I was so grateful for that, and that was also very important. To me, I think it's kind of the same thing that got me into this profession, is really my stubbornness, I guess. But I've always been very stubborn, even in my spiritual things. I believe very strongly in my faith, and I wasn't about to give it up. And even when it was challenged many times, and had many circumstances where I had to say and do things that were at the peril of my own career, honestly, I never gave it a second thought, and so I was.
You've never been embarrassed or felt uncomfortable that you were a Latter-day Saint, or you had values that.
I was always very comfortable with who I am and what I believe, and I make it known, and I try to be as respectful as I can. And certainly when you have co-workers who believe very differently and who enjoy a much more liberal lifestyle than I do, sometimes that can clash and can be a little uncomfortable. But for the most part, I felt like I had some really good people that were respectful of my beliefs, and I respected them, and we were able to get along really well. There was a few times when I had to stand up for what I believe and say, yeah, I won't do that. I won't do this particular scene, or I won't say these particular words. And sometimes that costs me professionally. There's no question, turning down roles and turning down certain things for my religious beliefs. But I've never regretted it at all. There's things that are far more important, and I know that. And a lot of it is credit to my beautiful wife who's here. She's been an incredibly important part of helping me to stay grounded, because there were times in my career where I'll call it the call of the world was very, very tempting, and I was seriously considering taking on roles and doing things that I'd have to sacrifice a lot of principles and a lot of things that I believe in, and it was very, very tempting, but thanks to my wife and thanks to good friends who I trust in and who've been good mentors to me, not only spiritually but also in the arts, I was able to make the right decisions, I felt, and able to pull through, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So yeah, there's a lot of sacrifices that had to have been made, and I probably could have gone a lot further in my career had I made different choices, but I'll never, ever regret that, making those choices.
How long were you on tour? I know being on tour can be very draining. I've been on tour, and it's like really draining, spiritually and physically and every other way. How long were you on tour with these shows?
So I was on tour with Les Mis for about a year and a half.
No, were you married? Did your wife go?
Yes, in fact, we just had our first child. Our first child was about 5 months old at the time. 4 months old, pardon me. That's right, it was in April. And anyway, so we're like, they cast me like right there at the audition, said, we need you right away, so get out on tour. And we're like, what do we do? So we sold our car, we bought a minivan, cars, I guess, bought a minivan, threw our belongings in it and a newborn baby, and we ran on the road for the next year and a half, except for China, of course, and Rachel came out with me on that one for a little while, but we didn't want to take the baby. But so we toured with a newborn for about a year and a half, and that was a lot of fun. We actually enjoyed that a lot. We lived out of the suitcase for sure, but it was a lot of fun. The next time I went on tour, though, Phantom of the Opera, that was much more difficult, just because we had 3 children then. During the course of that, we had our 4th. while I was on tour, and so it was a lot more difficult. I was away from the family that entire time, and I truly believe in the scripture that says it is not good for man to be alone, and certainly on tour that goes double. But we made it work. We knew we needed to stay close together as a family, so we would Skype in family home evenings and prayers. I would sometimes call them from the theater, so that we could pray together and just kind of help keep our spirituality up. And then also, thank goodness for Skype and video conferencing.
Yeah.
Was able to, see my children and, talk with them. So hopefully they didn't feel like I was too out of their life. But I would come home. I would fly into Newark, and because we were living out in New York at the time, and I would see them for maybe 1 or 2 days a month, and then I'd have to be back out on the road again. So it was very challenging spiritually and in other ways, but it was a good experience, and I'm grateful for it.
So, Dallyn, you're not living in New York.
No.
You're living in Utah.
Yep.
Tell me about that. I mean, if you're serious about this, why aren't you in New York?
That's a very good question. And we did the New York thing for a couple years. But I'll tell you, the reason is because of my family, and it goes deeper than that actually. When I first met Rachel, I was actually planning to become a doctor. I was taking all the med courses and everything like that. I was still a music, dance, theater major, yeah. I was still a music, dance, theater major.
Doctor.
The singing, dancing doctor is what I wanted to become. So I was still in MDT, but I wanted to become a doctor because I was thinking, I probably shouldn't go into this career. It's not really good for a family. And so I was thinking, I'll do a doctor, and it can be my side job while I perform. But anyway, I met Rachel under these circumstances, and thank goodness, because she wasn't about to marry a performer. But anyway, I tricked her into marrying me, thankfully. And but it was soon after that I had been fasting and praying about what I should do with my talents, what I should be doing with my life for a long time, for years, honestly. And I finally felt that after we were married, I got the answer that I should pursue the career of a performer. And I had to tell Rachel about that, and so that was hard. But that very day, the very moment that I told her that I really felt like I needed to pursue performing full time, she said, "Let me go pray about it myself." And so she went and she prayed about it, and I'm grateful to say it doesn't always work this way, but she got her answer right there, and it was strong enough that has helped us through all the hard times of being a performer. Rachel has been my greatest support, and I couldn't have done it without her, and I'm very, very grateful for her, and I don't think anybody could have done that. But we made a commitment at that point that we would really strive to follow the Spirit of the Lord. And I knew going into this, if I was ever to take a chance on surviving and providing for my family in this crazy career, I had to know that the Lord was behind it, and that He was behind this decision. We did, and we knew it, and it has been a crazy career. We've gone all over the place. I've killed my career several times, based on what I felt was right and what I needed to do, and what we needed to do, I should say. We make these decisions together, but I've never been disappointed, and the great blessings and opportunities that I've been blessed with have been wonderful. Could it have been different, and could I have, succeeded more in my career, and stayed in New York? Yeah, I could have made those decisions, and who knows, it probably would have worked out in some ways, but I knew it wasn't right for the family. Yeah. And so we had to make those choices. Sometimes we would go out, and I would be part of wonderful things like tours and other, regional theater productions and such. And then there were times when I call it take your break, but we were guided in a different direction. And so I became a seminary teacher for a couple of years, and then we go back out and on tour again, or I went to grad school in musical theater, and then we were guided back to do something else when I thought we were going to go back to New York. And so life hasn't always happened the way I thought, but it's happened exactly the way I know it should be, and I wouldn't be I wouldn't change a moment. And I've been so grateful for the wonderful opportunities I've been given to work both with the church as well as professionally. I've been so grateful, and it's been the highlights of my life.
Well, you have a wonderful spirit. I think we all
Thank you.
we all perceive that. A lot of people don't realize that when you choose to be a singer or a dancer or an actor or a musician, you are choosing to freelance.
Yeah, yeah. You never have a full-time job. Yeah.
And the definition
Really?
of someone, and I freelanced my whole life, a definition of someone who freelances is someone out of work. You go
So true.
You go from one job to another job, and sometimes when you're in one job a long time, it's kind of dangerous because you get stuck out. At least in my business, I find if I was working on one job a long time, what happens if that ends? Because I haven't been out there cultivating other contacts. But,
Yeah.
you know, I look back at my life, and I feel that, like you, I have been provided for quite marvelously. I think the Lord provides. Mm-hmm. And particularly when you're doing what you feel you ought to be doing with your life.
Yeah.
I absolutely know that the Lord provides. And being a freelancer is a tremendous opportunity to learn to live by faith.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you've had this experience. I remember in early days living in Hollywood, and writing a tithing check. There was like $3 left in the bank account, and not knowing where my next job would come from, and yet having this sweet peace that God would provide.
Yeah.
So why do you think, I mean, we both know, and we won't mention names, a lot of people in the arts seem to struggle with the church, with the gospel. Why do you think that is? Because I don't see that in you.
I think there's a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to try to, I guess, put anybody into a box or generalize. I mean, obviously there's many of our LDS actors who struggle with same-sex attraction, and that must be incredibly challenging, especially in that environment.
Yeah.
You know, in a professional world where you're surrounded by it, it's very open, and a lot of people feel like they can't maintain both. They feel like it's either one or the other, and so I know that has been a major factor. But in other cases also, I think there's people who, like I was for a time, it's very, very compelling, and it's very seductive.
Consuming.
World. It's very consuming.
Yeah.
You
love it. You're
you
passionate
love it.
about it.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't want to stop. You know,
You have such a strong appetite for it. You want to do it, and so little by little, it's very easy to make choices to either be part of productions or do things or even think things that start slowly leading you away from your faith. And make you start questioning things, and those questions just get harder and harder until you just don't feel it anymore, you know. And I've seen that, but so I've learned that a lot of it is just in the little choices that you make, the shows that you do, how much you associate with your cast members, because not all the time in our effort to want to be accepted and want to fit in, so to speak. It's very easy to engage in the same activities that your fellow, cast members are engaging in, because they become your family. You become very tight. And sometimes it can be very easy that the things that they believe in and subscribe to can be something that you start to either believe in or want to support or whatever. And I believe that there is a balance that can be made where you stay true to who you are, and you can still have a wonderful time and a good relationship with the people that you're working with. And I've been able to experience that. And I think a lot of it is just kind of trying to find that balance and being very true to who you are and faithful, and just learning to love people, for whatever they believe or whatever they do. And I think, and so learning to maintain that balance with your religion and with your work, which is can be a very spiritually perilous, as I mentioned, environment. Learning to find that balance is really the key. And then also, honestly, it's just, you just have to follow the Spirit. You just have to know when you need to leave, or when you need to change course, or when you need to start to realize that you're starting to get off course, because it's a very slow process. Again, my wife kind of helped be able to see that in me and be able to know when we needed to kind of adjust things, because not all the time is it very apparent to you when you're slipping and when you're going away from your faith and leaving the straight and narrow. But I always believe that, and like you were saying, it's these steps in the dark, learning to live by faith, learning to believe that if you decide to do something, it's not going to destroy your career, and it's not going to leave you. The Lord won't leave you high and dry. You know, you make the right decisions and do the right thing, and the Lord will provide. And you just got to trust that. And I think He'll, and at least for me, He's tested it to the hilt. You know, I've been many times where I felt like He's made me decide, or maybe He's tested to see if I was really willing to give up everything, to give up this career, to give up the thing that I love the most. I've really felt that, both Rachel and I. And it wasn't until I got to that point when I was able to really sincerely say, yeah, I'm willing to do that if that's what you want me to do. That's when other opportunities sometimes would open. Or sometimes He would lead me away, and I didn't know if I'd ever go back to it. And then sometimes I'd find myself back. Anyway, a lot of different things. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but I believe it's doable. Yeah. But you have to make sacrifices. There's no question.
We're going to take a little commercial here. For those that have just tuned in, you're watching Off the Record. I'm Lex de Azevedo, and I'm interviewing Dallyn Vail Bayles. And we'll be singing, he'll be singing. I'm not going to sing. I'm going to spare you
want to
all
join?
the
That's
pain.
great.
He'll be singing a few more songs. I will be interviewing other LDS personalities, performers. I have T.C. Christensen, the filmmaker of 17 Miracles, Jenny Oakes Baker, Stephen Sharp Nelson of the Piano Guys. My daughter Julie, who's a PhD psychologist, will be on the show, and we're going to talk about how Dad screwed up the whole family, and she's also a singer. But anyway, Dallyn, it's so good to feel your spirit, because I'm weary of all the criticism of the church. I'm weary of people who've left the church, people in the arts, and they find it's not compatible. I'll tell you what I think one of the dangers are. In the entertainment industry, it's all about me.
That's true. Yeah.
It's the applause.
Yeah.
It's the applause. No, you don't have to applaud right now. It's the applause for me. How good was I? How do I look?
So true.
It is, and this is a dangerous environment. I'm one of the few, probably the first Latter-day Saint to be born in Hollywood. I was born in Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital.
Oh, wow.
And my mother was one of the King sisters, and I grew up as part of the King family. I had an uncle who was president of Columbia Records. Another one was vice president of Universal Studios.
Wow. And
so forth. And that was the air I breathed and the water I drank. And I became, later on, I became aware. I said, this isn't healthy. This is all about, it's all about me. And what it does is feed the pride. And I've struggled that with my whole life. I mean, with pride.
Absolutely. I think that selfishness is just at the center of the career, and rightly, and like you say, I mean, it's all about being in the light. It's about you. You are the one you are your product, right? You're the thing you're trying to sell, and so you've got to make yourself the very best you can be, and you've got to believe in your. I mean, it's incredibly self-centered and selfish, and learning how to find the balance in there when you realize, you're thinking too much of yourself. You know, it's difficult, but that's, I think, at the very heart of what a lot of when people do leave their faith decide to. It's a lot of it is about the pride that it kind of creeps in there and makes you question things and makes you want to retaliate against authority or people who say you can or can't do. Yeah, and so that's a big danger, absolutely.
A big danger for me in my early years was my work was different than yours. I worked as a musical arranger and conductor and a composer. And I was always reluctant, as we had a lot of little children, I was reluctant to turn anything down. Because if I turned them down, somebody called and wanted me to arrange their record or score their motion picture, I turned them down, they'd never call me again. And so I was fearful. And so what did I do? I took this, and I took this, and I took this, and it was all good money, too. That was another thing. It's very enticing. You know?
Yeah.
And so I took all of these things, and then I was trying to juggle my family life, and I was serving as a bishop. I remember this one period there at the same time. And I thought, okay, I have to trust in God, because right now I'm trusting in the arm of flesh. I'm afraid to turn anything down.
Yeah.
But I have to turn it down because it's consuming my life, and I have to trust in God. And for me, that was really hard.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of sacrifice that's going to be involved, I think, if you want to remain not only a faithful member of the church, but I think what you're talking about, being able to balance your life with your family and be able to be there for them. I know that was a big concern of ours. I had just, when I got off of tour with Phantom of the Opera, again, I was gone for like 2 years, and most of that time, when I started auditioning again back in the city, it was for these regional theater productions that would have taken me away for another couple months, and I'm just like, I started thinking, I just had a newborn. I'd really like to see this child grow up, and I'd like to be there. And so what am I doing? What am I doing? And honestly, it was because of that, actually, our fourth child that was born while I was on tour. I took a leave of absence. I came home. I got involved in another gig out here in Utah. I flew out to Utah, and while I was here is when my wife went into labor. Really? And so I missed the birth of my child. And I think it was at that point that I started thinking, what am I doing? Yeah. What am I doing? And is this career worth so much to me? And it is so consuming. It is my passion. It's my love. Is it worth so much to me that I'm willing to give up on these precious moments with my family? Yeah. And it was an eye-opening experience and a soul-searching time for me. And I remember speaking with a man who was called to be a mission president in South Korea. And something that I always remember is that he kind of sat me down once. This is while I was teaching in seminary. And anyway, we just had this conversation. He's like, look, when you always make sure that your family is your first priority. He said that when he was called to be a mission president in South Korea, the first thing he wanted to make sure was that there was a play set up in the backyard of where they were staying, and because he wanted to make sure that he spent specific time with his kids, because he still had young kids at the time, and made sure he spent time with them to make sure that they knew that their dad they were his first priority. It wasn't his job, wasn't what he was doing. And I think I failed in that front in many ways, but I was always deeply impressed by that decision that he made and that story he told, and I realized there's a lot that I can do better, because this career is so all-consuming. I'm gone most of the evenings, and that's the time when families are around,
Sure.
Yeah. And so we've had to make some choices and choose how to balance, but it always involves sacrifice, always. And that's a good thing, I think. I think that's the thing that keeps you most grounded, so that you're not so focused on you. And having a family, honestly, has been the best thing to keep you humble and keep you, really, because you go home and they don't care what you've done or how well you sing or who you sing for. They're just like, you're just dad,
That's
right.
And
most of the time when you're practicing singing, they're like, shut up. Stop, you're too loud, Dad. And you're like, okay, sorry.
They didn't treat Pavarotti like that.
That's right. It's like, you know who I am, young man.
I said, when I'm playing the piano, I'm well excited. I'm playing real loud. I got the lid up, and I'm just playing my heart out. And it comes, he says, Lex, did you get the corn when you went to the market? And I said, they didn't treat Mozart like that. You interrupt me to ask about corn? Seriously?
Exactly.
Would you like to hear Dallyn sing another song? Okay, so Should we try this or not?
I'm open to it. I trust you. You're fine.
I hope I don't make you look really, well, I'm going to make myself look,
This is a very difficult arrangement of these two songs, and so, yeah.
Now I'm going to blame Kurt Bester, because he did it in the key of C sharp. Every note is sharp, and so...
and I will say that was my fault, because I told him to do it in the original key, and by golly, Lloyd Webber had written it in that key, that awful key, so...
We'll see if... he's going to be great. Don't listen to me. Just listen to him. Okay. Tell him what it is.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity, as I mentioned, to tour with Phantom of the Opera, and I was able to understudy both the Phantom and Raoul, and I love performing both of those roles. And both of their love songs I found to be a very interesting contrast to each other. I thought it'd be really fun to kind of put them together in a medley. And so this is The Music of the Night and All I Ask of You.
I've got to get these pages right.
Yeah, yeah. Remember, it's front and back.
Yeah.
Sharpens, heightens each sensation. Darkness stirs and wakes imagination. Silently the senses abandon their defenses. Unfurls its splendor, grasp it, sense it, tremulous and tender. Turn your face away from the garish light of day. Turn your thoughts away from cold, unfeeling light, and listen to the music of the night. Close your eyes and surrender to your darkest dreams. Purge your thoughts of the life you knew before. Close your eyes, let your spirit start to soar. And you'll live as you've never lived before. Softly, deftly, music shall caress you. Hear it, feel it, secretly possess you. Open up your mind, let your fantasies unwind in this darkness which you know you cannot fight. The darkness of the music of the night. No more talk of darkness. Forget these wide-eyed fears. I'm here. Nothing can harm you. My words will warm and calm you. Let me be your freedom. Let daylight dry your tears. I'm here. with you, beside you, to guard you and to guide you. Say you'll share with me one love, one lifetime. Let me lead you from your solitude. Say you need me with you here beside you. Anywhere you go, let me go too. Love me, that's all I ask of you. You alone can make my song take flight. Help me make the music of the
Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad. That was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, my. Well, Dallyn, by the way, we're going to take some questions. How are we doing time-wise here? Okay, we're going to take some questions from our Facebook group out there and in the audience if you have some questions. But one more thing I want to ask you. Mm-hmm. Dallyn, what advice would you give to people that want to do what you do? You know, not just sing. Maybe they want to act. Maybe they want to dance. Maybe they want to be composers or lyricists or somewhere in the entertainment, music, theater industry. Yeah. What advice would you give them?
First and foremost, you've got to know who you are. You've got to know what you stand for, you've got to know what you believe, and you've got to stick to those things. You've got to hold on to them, because if you don't, if you have an open attitude about whatever comes and I'll do it, and you know, your morals are kind of up for grabs, then the world will decide for you. Your career will decide for you, and you may find yourself doing things that you are not proud of later on when you really think about it. So know who you are. Know what you believe. Second of all, especially if you're a religious person, make sure you know that this is where you're supposed to be. Just find out, you know, talk to the Lord, trust in Him, and really seek to know what He would have you do with these wonderful talents that you love and that you're passionate about. He'll give you opportunities, and I imagine and I know it'll be in doing things that are right for you, and it may be on Broadway, it may be you know, teaching in a local studio, but either way you will be able to develop those talents and bless other people's lives, and your life will be fulfilling. Other than that, it's just get to work. Yeah. You know, work those talents.
It ain't easy.
No, it ain't easy. You've got to be the best you can possibly be, and you've got to work hard.
It's not enough to be the best in Blackfoot. You know, or Green River.
Yeah, or Green River, Utah.
You're lucky.
Yeah.
You realize how lucky you are.
I do. At least maybe I don't. I don't know. But yeah, and you know, take advantage of training. Take advantage of opportunities. I recently took a new role in my career as executive director of Pioneer High School for the Performing Arts.
Good for you.
And it's a wonderful performing arts high school there in American Fork. And I just kept thinking, oh, if I had had this opportunity to be part of a school where there's not only focus on the academics, but there's focus on your talents, and you receive professional training from wonderful teachers who can help you with connections, and it's free. You know, it's a charter school, and it's a school, so you can come for free.
Where is it located?
It's located in American Fork.
Okay.
And anyway, I'm just thrilled to be part of this, to be part of, you know, these young people who had passions like I did, you know, growing up in the performing arts, and be able to work with them and be able to help guide that education, and it's really thrilling for me. And so I'm only a few weeks into it, but I'm very excited about it. So they're at Pioneer High School. So, you know, get training, and whether it be at a performing arts high school or with people you trust, or at a studio someplace, but learn your craft, become the master of it, and improve yourself. Work hard.
Amen.
You got to do it. Otherwise, you won't get very far in that career.
And that is so true. Many, many people have come to me and they said, oh, look at this song I wrote. It was so inspired. Or look at this. They feel that they're inspired, but they haven't paid the dues. They haven't learned their craft.
Yeah.
It takes more than saying, oh, this melody just came to me. Yeah. It takes much more than that.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe that was a great beginning, but don't think of it as the end all. You know, I think, and this is where where pride kind of comes in, but sometimes we think, you know, once you've achieved a certain level of success, that you don't need to grow anymore. You are who you are, and you know, and whatever. That they stop learning, they stop growing, and I don't think perfection is really possible. And there's always room for growth. There's always room for learning more about your craft and about yourself and about other things. And so that's one thing I would also say to somebody is continue learning. Never stop learning, and never think that just because you had a wonderful performance here that you can now do anything or everything, but just continue to grow and learn. Continue to be humble enough to be able to accept criticism, which is the hardest thing, I think, in the world, for a performer especially, because that criticism can cut deep. Yeah. But you've got to have thick skin, and you've got to be humble enough to say, you know, there's probably something to what they're saying that I could improve in. And what if I did this? And then you just you discover all these new talents and these new ways of looking at your talent and your art that you wouldn't have been able to discover otherwise. So it's learning to accept talent, and that's why having a teacher is so important, learning to be able to listen into what you're doing as an actor, as a singer, as a dancer, whatever, and be able to give you some good criticism and take it and really see if there's something to that. I think that's a real key to success.
Well, it's called Pioneer
High School for the Performing Arts. For
the Performing Arts. Yeah. I think those kids are very fortunate to have you.
Well, thank you. I hope so. We'll find out.
Okay, let's see if we have some questions. How do I find us here? Wait a minute. Help me. We're going to Saturday's Warrior Facebook page, right? It was said at Saturday's Warrior. There we go. Let's see if there are these questions. Anyone here have any questions while I'm looking? Yes, young lady back here, real loud.
Do you have any tips or tricks for young actors at auditions?
Ooh. All right, the question was, do you have any tips or tricks for young actors at auditions? Go, you answer that, and I'm going to see if I can find this here.
Honestly, and this is just for me personally, relax. Just relax. Go in and do the very best you can. And if you mess up, so be it. But allow yourself to be able to make mistakes, even in those circumstances. You will have a much more enjoyable time, and you're going to find that if you go in with that in mind, I'm just here to do my best and have fun, you're going to find you're going to give the best audition possible, because you need to be relaxed. And now, I know how hard that is. It's so easy to say. You know, when you go into an audition, if you're like me, you tense up, your muscles are like this, and you're thinking through things, and you're worrying that you didn't choose the right song, or you know, didn't dress right, or there's a million things that could go in your head. But you just got to learn how to let that go and learn to just have fun. This is a wonderful career, but you just got to be able to go in and enjoy yourself and relax. And then you'll be able to give the best performance possible. But also, I would also say, give yourself a break if you don't feel it went well, because you honestly never know what the people behind the table are hearing and seeing, and it may be very different than the impression that you have of your performance. So never judge yourself, never judge your performance or the experience. Just give your gift and walk out, and as hard as it is, just kind of put it out of your mind until you either hear back from them or you go on to the next audition.
Okay, my worst fears have been confirmed. I'm not online. Can somebody help me here? Seriously, Kim,
technology.
Tell me if there's questions out there. It will not come up. I'm on Saturday's Warrior page, and all I get is that.
Uh-oh. The spinning wheel of death.
Spinning wheel.
Spinning wheel of death.
Of death. Here. There it is.
Any other questions?
Out of all the projects that you've done, and we've been great followers of you, and that's the other thing. We've seen you where you and your wife were at a chapel at the south end of Provo. We drove down to see you, and it was just lovely. The chapel was full just to hear you sing. Then we bought tickets to a BYU thing where you had someone from England come.
Oh, yeah,
and that
Savannah.
was so fun. But out of all the films and everything, is there an absolute favorite? I know that's a hard
It is.
question.
It's hard, and I know you think, there must be something.
So the question is, out of all you've done, do you have an absolute?
Like you say, I like to compare that question to trying to choose your favorite child, because you love them all, and they all have such wonderful personalities. They have such wonderful things that they bring into your life, and you just love them so much. I will say that of all that I've been able to do professionally, the performances that I have valued the most have been the times when I've been able to work directly with the LDS Church. I've always strongly believed that my talents, the talents that the Lord had given me, I wanted to be able to serve Him in some way. And it doesn't mean you have to do church productions. Don't get me wrong about that. But I was always so grateful for those opportunities when I had to be able to do something that very directly was part of the missionary work of the church, or whether it be a Nauvoo pageant or a Savior Redeemer, Savior of the world at the conference center, or the Joseph Smith film. I loved those because, and a lot of that also was because I felt like I could share something that was not just important to the character and put something on, but I was able to share something that is a huge part of me. I mean, this is my heart, this is my soul, these are my beliefs as Dallyn Vail Bayles. And so I'm not just acting a role. I'm able to share something with somebody that's very deep and very, very meaningful to me, and I know will bless that person's life. And I think, honestly, we talk about what is art and what's the value of art. To me, I feel like it needs to bring a measure of beauty and joy and needs to uplift others and teach others valuable things. And there's nothing that I think that approaches the importance of that than when you have opportunities to directly share the gospel of Jesus Christ with somebody. And because I know those principles will bless somebody's life far more than just having a wonderful time in the theater, and entertainment. And again, I don't want to be misunderstood. There's value in that. There's value in lots of different kinds of theater. It doesn't have to be religiously related. But I do believe it has to teach good principles, teach good morals, and teach things that will bring somebody closer to God in whatever way it does that. So for me, those were the most meaningful in my career. I will say probably my favorite character, though, is Archibald Craven in Secret Garden. And so I love that musical, and I love that role. And so overall, I think that was one of my favorite. But you always love the challenge of the Phantom and Raoul and trying to make the acting challenge of it and the vocal challenge of it. So those are fun for me too. Alonzo Ross was such an exhilarating role. a very looked over role in Les Mis, but I loved performing it because his music was so passionate and so beautiful. So, you know, there's just, other than the religious thing, there's a lot, I don't know how to decide.
Well, we have a number of comments. One from my wife in the Atlanta airport on her way to Brazil. She says, honey, your forehead's too shiny. Okay, so...
Makeup.
Anyway, we don't have any actual questions, but so where do you see yourself going from here?
From here, I'm going to stay in academia. You know, I'm really excited about working at a school where I can influence the lives of these young artists and help them hopefully to realize their dreams and hopefully push them to work harder, both academically and artistically, and be able to hopefully move on to higher education, or if they desire, you know, to be able to hit the ground running in their careers. But I look forward to being a good influence, I hope, you know, in the lives of young artists, because I know what it's like out there, and I know what it's like to be a teenager with big dreams and wanting to try to fulfill those, and so my heart goes out to them, and so I'm excited to be part of that, and so that in the meantime is my focus. I'll continue to do local theater. I continue to do concert work around the country. And then every once in a while, an opportunity to perform in a piece of theater, which I always love. But yeah, that my main focus will be my job, which is being part of the Pioneer Charter School.
Wonderful. One last question, then I'm sure everyone would love to hear you sing another song. But the question I have for you is, when your life is over, what would you like to be known for?
Ooh, that is a deep question. I hope I can be remembered as being somebody who is true to my faith. But more than that, I want my children to believe that I was a good father. And I'm not doing a very good job of that, honestly, right now. I think there's a lot of stuff that I'm doing that I need to be better at, but I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good father. And, and unfortunately, I have a lot of weaknesses in that area, I think, but I want to be able to be a good father and a good husband and a good member of the church. And if that's all I'm remembered for, then I know that that's the only thing that really is of value. I'll be grateful if people can remember things that I've sung or pieces that I've performed in, but I hope people remember that I believe in my faith, that I know it's true, and I know it will bless anybody's life who chooses to follow it, and it's willing to make every sacrifice for, including your career, to do that, and so that's what I hope.
Well, I perceive that you have a very pure heart, and that may be your greatest gift.
Thank you.
And that, I think, what you just said is a perfect segue to this next number. Why don't you introduce? I'm going to leave you alone on this one.
Yeah,
but you're going to do with a full orchestra.
We're going to do a track, on this one. So, of the two songs, I'm probably most requested that I sing. "Bring Him Home" is one, and this is the other. "Savior, Redeemer of My Soul." I had the opportunity to. I first came across this song while I was working with Rob Gardner, who wrote Joseph Smith the Prophet, where the song comes from. He wrote the music. Orson Pratt wrote the lyrics. It's actually a hymn, but he wrote a different melody to it, and I just fell in love with it. Rob's just a phenomenal musician and arranger, and it just spoke to my soul. So when I had the opportunity to record an album, I knew I wanted this song on there. But I wanted something different, and I could hear this violin solo over the top. And I wanted Jenny Oakes Baker to record that. And thankfully, I was able to realize that. But I never in the world realized how much that this hymn has meant to so many people, again, for so many reasons. And I'm so grateful. Being able to be part of something that I hear on many times as blessed people. And this is one that I hear the most of. So, Savior, Redeemer of my soul. And something that I always love to share whenever I have an opportunity to sing this song is a quote that I think fits it perfectly. This is from Elder Joseph B. Worthland, who said, "Jesus the Christ taught the words of life. He showed the way to truth, the way to peace, the way to happiness. I testify that when he walked the earth, thousands looked into his eyes, yearning for answers, yearning for release from suffering and grief, yearning that the burdens they carried would be lightened. Everyone who looked into his eyes with faith found healing, peace, and happiness. I testify to you this day that the time will come when every one of us will look into the Savior's loving eyes, and we will know then with a surety that a child was born to Mary who was indeed the Son of God, the Savior of the world. We will know that no grief is so great, no pain so profound, no burden so unbearable, that it is beyond his healing touch." Savior, Redeemer of my soul, whose mighty hand hath made me whole, whose wondrous power hath raised me up and filled with sweet my bitter cup. What tongue my gratitude can tell? O gracious God of Israel. Never can I repay thee, Lord, but I can love thee. Thy pure word, hath it not been my one delight, my joy by day, my dream by night? Then let my lips proclaim